You are listening to the CPA Moms podcast with Dawn Goldberg, CPA. This is episode number 336, What to Do When Your Brain Gets Stuck on Repeat. Welcome to the CPA Moms podcast, the podcast where busy female accountants who also happen to be moms like you get practical support and solutions you need to have it all, a successful career and a happy family. If you are looking for the solution to overwhelm and mom guilt, if you'd like to feel better and have more balance, as well as learn how to take back control of your life, you've come to the right place. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's show. As always, I hope you had a great week. I cannot believe it is mid-March. Seriously, 2.5 months have flown by. It just seems like yesterday we were celebrating New Year's Eve. So I don't know if the time is flying by for you. I know when my kids were little, time seemed to be very, very slow. But the first day of spring is, I think it's only a week away. The time changed, the clocks have changed, so at least where I am. So now we have daylight a little bit longer. So it's very interesting this time of year. And we're in the midst of tax season if you're in public accounting. And yeah, it's we just have a month left. I can't believe it's March 15th when I'm recording this. Just a month left until the end of tax season. We can do it. Stay strong. All right, let's get started with this week's episode. This is episode number 336. The title is What to Do When Your Brain Gets Stuck on Repeat. Now, I want you to make sure that you stay to the end because I'm going to share a personal story about how my brain recently got stuck on repeat and what I did about it. Now, honestly, I wrote the outline for this podcast months ago. So it was really ironical that something that relates to this podcast episode just happened to me the other day. So I definitely stay to the end because I'm going to explain what that was. So the question is, have you ever noticed how your brain can latch onto a single thought and it's like it refuses to let go? I say it's like a dog with a bone. Maybe it's replaying an awkward moment. Maybe it's overthinking something you or someone else said. Or maybe it's obsessing about what someone might be thinking. It's like a broken record that keeps looping over and over. And no matter how hard you try, it just won't stop. Well, this kind of mental replay can be really exhausting. It's not just draining your energy, though. It's stealing your time and your focus as well. Right? You sit there, you're caught in the loop, you're wishing your brain had an off switch, but the harder you try to push the thought away, the louder it seems to get. So why does this happen? Why does our brain decide to cling so tightly to something, even when we don't want it to? And why does it feel like fixing the problem right now is the only thing that will make it stop? Well, the truth is everyone experiences this at some point, whether they realize it or not. Whether it's replaying a conversation, worrying about the future, or second-guessing a decision. Our minds just have a way of grabbing onto certain thoughts and holding on for dear life. But just because it's common doesn't mean that it's helpful or that you have to stay stuck in the loop. What if there was a way to break free from this mental hamster wheel that we all get on? What if you could notice the loop, understand why it's happening, and then shift your focus to something that actually matters? I want you to imagine how much lighter and how much more in control you would feel. So here's something I want you to think about. What are these loops costing you? Is it costing you time with your family? Costing you a sense of peace? That's exactly what happened to me recently. Is it costing you progress on something important? What would it feel like to stop spinning your wheels and start using that mental energy for something more meaningful? Now, this is not about blaming yourself for having these thoughts, right? I've talked about this on the podcast before. We have 60,000 thoughts a day. Very difficult to control them. But it is about understanding that your brain sometimes creates these loops to feel safe or in control, even when it's not really helping. But the good news is that you're not powerless. You can learn to recognize when it's happening and choose a different path. So how do you do that? How can you take back control when your brain just feels stuck on repeat? So that's what I want to dive into today. This week, I'm going to discuss why thought loops happen. I'm going to talk about how to recognize and redirect thought loops. And then I'm going to share my personal example of breaking a thought loop. So let's start with why they happen. So thought loops don't happen because there's something wrong with you. They're just your brain doing its job. And it's doing its job a little too well. In other words, your brain is wired to focus on things that feel like problems, even if They're not as urgent or important as they seem. It's a survival instinct that kept our ancestors alive. But today, it can leave us stuck in mental overdrive. For accountant moms, thought loops can pop up in all kinds of ways. Maybe you can't stop replaying a conversation with a client. Maybe you're wondering if you said something wrong. Or maybe you keep checking your email. You're afraid that you might miss something critical. Maybe it's obsessing over whether the numbers on that report, they add up perfectly, even though you've already triple checked them. The tricky part is that these loops always come with a sense of urgency. Your brain tells you that you must solve this problem right now or something bad will happen. Even when you know deep down that it's not as big of a deal as it feels, the thought keeps pressing. It's like a flashing warning sign that you just can't ignore. But the harder you try to stop the loop, the more stuck you feel. Because resisting it, telling yourself to just stop worrying about it or just let go, this only seems to make that loop sound louder. And before you know it, you're exhausted, you're frustrated, and you're probably even more distracted than when you started. It's the analogy I like to use. It's like quicksand. The more you fight, the deeper you sink. So why does this happen? It's because your brain sees unresolved issues or potential mistakes as threats. Whether it's a prehistoric predator when humans lived in caves, or it's a typo on a client's tax return or email, your brain reacts exactly the same way, by sounding the alarm. But unfortunately, it doesn't always know when to turn the alarm off. Thought loops may feel like they're protecting you, but they're really just draining your energy and your focus. And unless you learn to work with your brain instead of fighting against it, they're gonna keep showing up. But here is the good news. Understanding why they happen is the first step to breaking free. Okay? So now I want to talk about how to recognize and redirect those thought loops. So breaking free isn't about forcing yourself to stop thinking as if that could happen, right? It's about recognizing what's happening and then choosing a better response. So I want to give you a step-by-step process to help you manage these thought loops. And I'm going to give you examples along the way. Step number 1, you need to identify the thought loop. So you want to ask yourself 2 simple questions. Number 1, what do I think has gone wrong? And number 2, what am I really wanting? These 2 questions help you understand why your brain is stuck on repeat. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you can't stop replaying a client meeting where maybe you stumbled over an explanation. So ask yourself, number 1, what do I think has gone wrong? And maybe the answer is, I sounded unprepared. Okay. Then the second question you want to ask yourself, what am I really wanting? So the answer in this example might be, I want the client to trust me. Okay. So that's step number 1. Now you've pinpointed what's driving that thought loop. It's actually not about the mistake itself, but it's about feeling respected and feeling competent. Okay. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is reframe and observe. So for this step, you want to separate your logical brain, which is your higher brain. I like to call that the supervising parent. You want to separate that from the reactive brain, the primitive brain, or like I call the toddler brain. You want to remind yourself that your primitive brain is overreacting to a situation that is not life-threatening. And you want to visualize the thought loop as like a cloud that is passing by. You want to acknowledge it, but you don't want to grab onto it. Now, for example, if you're obsessively checking email because you're worried about missing something, you want to tell yourself, this is just my brain trying to feel in control. Again, you want to picture the urge to check your email as a cloud floating across the sky. You see it, but you don't have to act on it. And this simple visualization can really help create distance between you and the thought. You're observing the thought, you're not at the effect of the thought. So step number 3 is to redirect the energy. So instead of resisting the thought loop, you want to take the energy that it's creating and you want to channel it into something productive. In other words, focus on a task or activity that gives you a sense of accomplishment or gives you a sense of relief. You've got this pent-up energy because you're spinning in this thought loop or getting stuck on repeat. You want to redirect that energy and focus on something that will give you that sense of accomplishment. Now, for example, if you're replaying a mistake in your head, what you could do is redirect that focus, let's say into organizing your workspace or clearing out your inbox, Or let's say you can't stop worrying about that report. Use that energy to finish a different project or step outside for a quick walk to reset your brain. So one accountant I know that I've worked with was stuck in a loop about whether they missed a deadline for a client. And what they did, instead of rechecking their work over and over again, so what they did was they used the energy to update their tax software for the next project. And this helped to redirect their brain and redirect their energy. Step number 4 is to practice self-compassion. So for this step, you want to be kind to yourself. There is no upside to beating yourself up because thought loops aren't a failure on your part. They're just how your brain tries to process things. There's nothing wrong with you if you're in a thought loop. Use affirmations or calming reminders to quiet that negativity or that self-judgment. For example, repeat to yourself, this doesn't matter in the big picture. Or you could say something like, it's okay not to have all the answers right now. Or maybe you feel guilty about a perceived mistake. In that instance, you could remind yourself, I did my best with the information I had at the time. One of my coaching clients told me that they started saying, this does not define me. I love that. They would say that to themselves whenever they felt that they were stuck in a loop. It really helped them to release the need to fix every little thing and to be paranoid about making mistakes. And the 5th and final step is to build a new habit. So every time that you catch and you redirect a thought loop, you are training your brain to respond differently. And over time, these steps are going to feel much more natural. It's not going to seem like it's a lot. And the good news is the loops will lose their grip on you. So for example, if you notice a loop starting, like, here we go again, go back to step 1 and follow each step immediately. One accountant I coached made it a habit to pause, to take a deep breath, and to write down their looping thought. This way they could be the observer of it and not at the effect of it. This simple habit gave them enough distance to move forward without getting stuck. Let me go back over the steps again. So step number 1 was identify the thought loop. Ask yourself 2 simple questions. What do I think has gone wrong? And what am I really wanting? Step number 2, reframe and observe. You want to separate your logical brain from your reactive brain and remind yourself that your primitive reactive brain is just overreacting to a situation that is not life-threatening. Step number 3, redirect your energy. So instead of resisting the thought loop, take the energy that it's creating and channel it into something productive. Step 4 is practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself because thought loops aren't a failure on your part. And the 5th and final step, build a new habit. Every time you catch and you redirect a thought loop, you are training your brain to respond differently. Now, as I said before, thought loops are normal, but they do not have to run your life. By identifying them, by observing them, redirecting the energy, and being kind to yourself, you can break free and put your mental energy towards what really matters. The bottom line is that thought loops can feel overwhelming, but they do not have to control you. By recognizing when they happen, by observing them without judgment, and then redirecting the energy into something more useful, you can take back your focus and your peace of mind. And I don't know any accountant mom that doesn't want some more peace of mind. It's not about being perfect or stopping thought loops entirely. It's about learning how to work with your brain instead of fighting against it. Because the more you practice these steps, the easier it becomes to let go and to move forward. And that, my friends, that's a skill that will serve you in every area of your life. Okay, so now I'm going to get to the part where I share my personal example. So I want to share a recent example of how I got stuck in a thought loop just literally a couple of days ago and what helped me break free. So here's what happened. The other day, my boss sent me an email reply that was just downright nasty. It completely caught me off guard. And when I pushed back, he sent an apology email. But to me, to my brain, it felt very self-serving. But here's the part that got me stuck. In his email, he wrote, quote, "I try my best to accommodate you." I was like, what? That one sentence sent my brain into a major spiral. I was out to dinner with some friends and I could not focus on anything that anybody was saying. I just was like, oh my gosh, I could not stop thinking about it. What did he mean by quote unquote accommodate me? Did he think he was doing me a favor? Was he implying that I was difficult to work with? Like, what in the world? My brain latched onto that phrase, I try my best to accommodate you, like a dog with a bone. It kept replaying it over and over, trying to dissect every possible meaning. And the more I tried to stop thinking about it, the worse it got. It was like my brain refused to let go until I figured out the perfect response or the perfect way to justify my frustration. My brain was like plotting revenge. But of course, that's not how this works. So I got home, I told my husband, I said, listen, and he's helped me with this before, but I said to him, listen, I need help getting out of this thought loop. So I explained to him what was happening. He listened. And then he said something so simple, but so powerful. He said to me, every time you think about him or the situation or anything that frustrates you, I want you to tell yourself, he's not worth it. He's not worth the stress. He's not worth your mental energy. And he's definitely not worth your peace, especially with everything you have going on with chemo and your cancer. And you know what? That worked. Every time that my brain tried to pull me back into that loop, I repeated those words. He's not worth it. He's not worth the stress. He's not worth the mental energy. He's not worth my peace. It was like flipping a switch. Instead of getting stuck in the thought loop, instead of getting stuck in the spin, I reminded myself that my peace of mind was worth more than analyzing every word of his email, especially as I'm dealing with chemotherapy. I need all of my strength, mental, physical, emotional. This is exactly what I've been talking about today. I can't believe that it happened only a few days ago. Thought loops feel urgent. I'm telling you, if I hadn't spoken to my husband, I would still be stuck in it days later. Thought loops feel urgent, but they aren't actually helpful. When you recognize them, when you acknowledge what's really going on, and you redirect your brain, you take back your power. So if you find yourself stuck in a thought loop this week, I want you to try what my husband told me. Pick a sentence that shifts your focus, something that reminds you of what really matters. Because your energy is too valuable to waste on something or someone that isn't serving you. All right, so now I want to give you 3 questions to consider to apply what you learned in this episode. Question number 1, what do I think has gone wrong here? That's question 1 in the first step. This question helps you pinpoint what is actually triggering the thought loop. So often the loop isn't about what's happening right now, but it's about an unresolved fear or an unresolved worry. For example, if you're obsessing over a mistake in an email, you might realize that you're actually worried about how others are going to perceive your professionalism. By identifying the real issue, it lets you address it more thoughtfully instead of staying stuck in the loop. The second question is, what am I really wanting? That was the second question in step 1. This question helps you uncover the deeper need behind the loop. Are you looking for reassurance? Are you looking for validation? Are you looking for a sense of control? For example, if you keep checking your phone for an email reply, which I am totally guilty of, the real need might be for closure, or it might be for connection. Because when you know what you're truly seeking, you can find it in much healthier ways that meet that need. And the third and final question is, how can I redirect this energy into something more productive? So instead of letting that thought loop drain you, think about how you can channel that energy into something positive. For example, if you're worried about a client's feedback, you might redirect that focus into preparing for your next project or organizing your workspace. Because redirecting helps you shift from feeling stuck to feeling accomplished, even if the original issue isn't fully resolved. All right, my friends, that was episode number 336. What to do when your brain gets stuck on repeat. So thankfully, I did have the conversation with my husband. I was able to sleep so much better that night. And when things popped up afterwards, I just kept repeating what my husband told me to say to myself. And it's been quite miraculous, I can tell you. I'm able to disengage from my brain picking up where it left off. Like, it's amazing. When you've worked on a particular thought loop, just the tiniest thing can trigger you right back to it. So you have to have something to replace it with. And just the replacing it with, he's not worth it. He's not worth the stress. He's not worth your mental energy. He's not worth your peace. It was like, boom, flicking a switch. It has been so helpful because I have just been able to focus on what really matters. I'm in the middle of tax season. I have to get work done. I don't have time for my brain to be going crazy like a dog with a bone about this situation. It has freed me up. I've slept better. I have felt better. I have been more focused. I have gotten more done in less time, all because I took back control of my brain. I did not let that toddler brain just go to the races, just be like, this is what we're obsessing about today. Absolutely not. So I hope this episode was helpful. If your brain gets stuck in repeat, definitely re-listen to this episode because I'm telling you, it works. All right, everybody, have a fantastic week and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you like what you heard, be sure to click subscribe on your podcast app so you never miss an episode. At CPA Moms, we pride ourselves on being the e-harmony of the accounting world, making it possible for business owners to have their accounting needs met by amazing CPAs that are moms just like you. Whether you are an accountant interested in growing your own solo mompreneur business, or perhaps you are looking for flexibility to work from home, or maybe you are looking to grow your current firm or team, CPA Moms has what you are looking for. Check us out at cpa-moms.com.